the way we have things working here, it's okay. Things work fine, but it's not fully Kotlin in the sense that we have things more succinct and we're getting our class to be customizable as easy as possible. What I mean by that is as follow. You see here, when we create this class here, we are passing, or we have these properties, color and model. And we're able to, of course, change those properties, but it would be really nice to pass them along in the creation of the class. Because you see, if you look at when we instantiate our car, it looks like a function, as we've seen before. We have parentheses there. That means inside here, we would be able to create or construct, that's the key word, construct our object in the beginning when we start. Because the moment we do, say car, instantiate our car in this case, it will have the state or the properties that we have created or added inside of our class, inside of our plan, or inside of our blueprint, which is okay, but that's not very flexible. It would be nice to pass as variables or as parameters inside here, like color, model, so that when we instantiate it, we can pass directly. So what we're going to be passing here in our class, it's what we call inside of a constructor. This is what we call a primary constructor. So every class, Kotlin class, has a primary constructor, even if you don't add it, right? So in this case here, there is one, but it's not explicit. So in this case here, I'm going to explicitly say, okay, for our primary constructor here, I'm going to pass, for instance, color, which is going to be a string type, and I'm also going to pass model, which is going to be a string type as such. And as we hear, we can also set them up to something. Okay, let's say blue for default, right? Something like this. Now, because we have default variables and we have default values, I should say, this still works, right? If you hover over, you can see it says color is going to be blue, model is going to be XMDL. Let's run this and see if this happens, if this works. So we have color. Let's go ahead and run and see what's going to happen. Which one of these properties is going to be taken? It turns out, of course, even though we pass, actually we didn't pass anything, but in this case, in our constructor here, we added default values. Even though that happened, we're still getting the values that we set up in our properties. So what we can do here, in fact, we can just set all of this color and model, the properties, inside by saying color like this, and change this to model like that. Okay, now we're going to have some little issues here. It says move to constructor. It's okay, we're going to get there. So now, if I run this, we should get, as you see, blue and XMDLE, because these properties that we added inside of the class are now getting from our constructor. This is indeed a constructor. It looks like just parameters that we're passing in a function, but internally we have a constructor that is constructing this object when we instantiate it. In fact, up here I can just say color. Whenever I instantiate a new class, I can say color green, and then model, say LLM like this. If I run this, what do you think is going to happen? Right, we should see green and LLM, and there you have it. The important thing here is that when we instantiate a class, actually when we create a class, I should say, we can pass as parameters here inside of this constructor, and we can set them up like this. Now, this is too much of redundant code. This is not very Kotlin-like. That means we can change this to make it better. What I mean by that is, if I change, let me go get rid of all of this, change internally, let's say var for each one of these, say var like this, we're going to have a problem, because by doing this, say var or val, doesn't matter, what we're doing here is that we no longer need this property, because these are being assigned, we're creating them when we add var or val for our properties, right? So in this case here, remember what we're doing, we're passing these arguments inside of our constructor. If we put var before each one of these parameters, right, in our constructor, Kotlin will know that what we're doing also, we are using these as properties like we did here. So this will make our code a little bit more concise, which is Kotlin-like. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. We should see the same thing because we've just changed the structure here. Now here's the beauty of object-oriented programming. One of the beauties, at least. We can create different kinds of car because we have created a class we created this structure that is the blueprint, the plan. We were saying here we have to have a property, color, and model. We can add as many as we want, but this works, okay? And now at the top here, we are saying val car is equal car and passing those properties. That means we can actually create as many cars as we want. So in this case here, I can say second car, and I can say this is going to be purple, and the model is going to be XLD like this, okay, gibberish. And I can go ahead and say print ln like that. I'm going to copy all of this. And if I run, right, I need to invoke the second car to get the color as well as the model like this. So let's go ahead and run. And there you go. Second car, color purple, model, that there. So potentially you could just create a class such as this. Now this is very simple, of course, and send it out to as many friends as you want. All they have to know is that there is a class car and how it's created, and they can create as many cars as they want. Just start thinking about at a factory where they make cars, right? There's the team that creates the blueprint of the car, and then they send those blueprints to the manufacturer. That's where they actually going to build the car. That's the same thing, right? This is the architect, the blueprint of a car. This is what happens when we go to the manufacturer and they start building the actual car. And this concept is very powerful in programming, not just in Kotlin, but in programming in general.